In chapter 11, we were given a snapshot of the contents of the scroll, which is the revelation John has been given for the servants of God. It ends with the coming of God and the beginning of his reign on earth forever. Chapter 12 starts a new cycle of visions. The visions expand upon the snapshot we have been given thus far. The dragon is now introduced. He is a mix of different images and traditions. He is explicitly identified as the devil or Satan and the ancient serpent, referring to Genesis 3. But he is also described like the fearsome chaos monster Leviathan with its 7 heads. The Old Testament describes God as defeating this monster in Isaiah 27 and Psalms 74 and 89. So the dragon is a hybrid of the devil who corrupts the world from Genesis and the mythical anti-creation monster from ancient Near Eastern stories. Added to this potent combination is the story of the god Apollo, whose life was endangered by a huge serpent named Python. Python threatened Apollo's mother Leto when she was about to give birth to Apollo. This dragon then is an image of supreme evil, which Jews, non-Jewish people from the Middle East, and pagans would be able to recognize. They would also know that this dragon is ultimately defeated. In Genesis 3, God promises Eve that her offspring will crush the serpent's head. The non-Jewish Asians would know that the chaos monster is defeated in order to make the world. And the pagans would know that Apollo later slays Python for threatening his mother. The dragon has 7 heads and 10 horns, which the beast from the sea will also have. The dragon also wears 7 crowns, which, because the number represents completeness, implies the dragon is the authority behind all evil authorities. This is also a direct challenge to the 7 horns of the Lamb. Having been thrown out of heaven, the dragon forms his own unholy trinity, with the beast from the sea and the beast from the earth. The sea, which the first beast comes from, are the primeval waters of chaos. In mythical terms, evil comes from the deep hidden realms. This can either be the abyss, which we saw back in chapter 9 and we'll see again in chapter 20, or the deep waters of pre-creation or anti-creation. We saw in Daniel 7 4 beasts coming up out of the sea, each representing a different empire. The sea beast in Revelation has elements of all 4 of them, but it is the 4th and last beast, the most terrifying of them all, which has the 10 horns. So the sea beast which the dragon summons is a mix of them all, but especially the last and worst. His 7 heads are the sum of all the heads of the 4 beasts from Daniel, and the number, of course, represents fullness or totality. Later, they will be identified as Roman emperors. The dragon delegates his authority and throne to the beast. The throne of Satan was mentioned in the letter to Pergamum in chapter 2. The reference was to the Roman headquarters for the province, which were situated there, which also meant the emperor cult was there too. The power of the beast is given for idolatry, to seize the acclaim and glory which is due to God alone. It is best expressed in the greatest power on earth, the Roman Empire. The way the dragon steals this glory is partly through force, partly through deception, and partly seduction. The unholy Trinity parodies the Holy Trinity, and one of the beast's heads appears to have been slain, using the same words as described the Lamb when John first sees him in chapter 5, verse 6. His recovery parodies the resurrection. As a result, the people worship the beast and say, "Who is like it?" which is the Old Testament way of proclaiming the uniqueness of God. The background to this wound is the Emperor Nero's suicide. The Roman Empire was thrown into chaos and was in danger of collapse, but recovered and regained its strength. Notice that it is the head which is struck with the mortal wound, as the heads represent the emperors, but it is the beast itself which recovers, as the beast represents the empire. Nero was the first emperor to persecute the church in Rome, and the martyrs at that time included Peter and Paul. He was, therefore, the best personification of Antichrist evil at the time. The beast from the earth is later called the false prophet. In Trinitarian terms, the dragon parodies the Father, the sea beast the Son, and the earth beast the Holy Spirit, who testifies on behalf of the sea beast and brings it glory and honour. The beast and the dragon are worshipped together. This earth beast can even do signs like the great prophetic act of calling down fire from heaven. It is therefore very deceptive, but it also uses brute force. The background to this beast is the priests and city elites who promoted the emperor cult in Asia. Elsewhere in the empire, emperor worship was imposed by the Romans, but eastern provinces were more keen and built statues and increased pressure to join in with idolatry. The economic restrictions were real, inasmuch as guilds had gods as their patrons, and Christian artisans would have to decide whether to join them or not. The seal which everyone is pressured to getting is another parody of the seal with which God sealed his 144,000. Finally, there is the number of the beast, 666. Both Greek and Hebrew letters could also function as numbers, and words had a numerical value when added up. This could reveal deeper meanings. This ancient form of study was known as gematria, and we have already seen it in Matthew's genealogy, based on David's name, which is 3 letters in Hebrew and adds up to 14, corresponding to Matthew's arrangement of 3 sets of 14 names. Here, the meaning is particularly deep. The Greek word for beast, therion, when converted into Hebrew lettering, adds up to 666. And the phrase Nero Caesar, if written in Hebrew, also adds up to 666. But there is more. Here in verse 18, John says this number calls for wisdom. He uses the same phrase in 17:9 about the 7 mountains, which are 7 kings. There is an 8th king, which is the beast. Now, the number 666 is a triangular number, which means that if you add up all the numbers up to 36, you get 666. But 36 is itself a triangular number, making it doubly triangular, which is very rare, because it is the sum of all numbers from 1 to 8, which in turn makes 36 the 8th number in the triangular sequence. And what is more, 666 is the 8th number in this triangular sequence if counted by skipping triangular numbers by increasing intervals. The highlighting, if you can call it that, of the number 8 points forward to the beast's identity as the 8th king in chapter 17. I realise that all that may not make sense, so I've put what I hope is a simpler explanation into the description below. And even if it still doesn't make sense, the point is that using numerology, John encodes the identity of this figure who is a parody of the Lamb. It may be that it was safer to do it this way. Nero Caesar in Greek is actually 1005, and graffiti found throughout the Roman Empire made jokes based on that number. But even if caution is part of the reason, the main reason must be that such mystery fits the visionary nature of the prophecy, which uses so many numbers, signs, symbols, and objects. The depth and completeness of this number, and the rareness involved too, which fits together so well in so many ways, would help confirm God's sovereignty over all these things, showing that they are so deeply understood by God and completely under his control.